Hello folks, how's it going? So welcome to another One Piece review. This time I'll be covering manga chapter 1101. Boy, that's a mouthful. So Oda is setting us up for something massive to go down. Perhaps before the end of the year, or maybe the beginning of 2024 to start the new year off with a bang. Literally. I'll cover that by the end. So let's get into this chapter. We've got Luffy, Chopper and Nami on the cover of Weekly Shonen Jump. To get into that festive holiday winter spirit, because we see Luffy on a snowboard, so that's pretty cool with One Piece on it, and you got Nami on the skis with Chopper, so that's pretty cool. You also got a color spread involving all the Vegapunk satellites, including Vegapunk himself, which kind of gets me to think about what's going to happen to the clones before Vegapunk, whether or not he actually makes it alive off Egghead Island, because that's literally what he said he wanted to do. He wanted to escape Egghead Island with Luffy's help. With Luffy's help, of course, but we'll see how that goes. But we start off the chapter, speaking of Luffy, we see Luffy training by using Gum Gum Axe, and Kuma now being on Luffy's hometown, is watching this all go down, and it automatically gets him to think about Dragon. You also see the tiger or leopard that was chasing Luffy, getting scared. Now, a lot of people kind of want to make that was a reference to Rob Lucci. I didn't really see that until I could see it from this chapter, though, because we not only see a leopard or tiger cowering in the background, we also see a crocodile, which to me could be a complete reference to two of the most formidable enemies for Luffy in the series, and that's Crocodile and Rob Lucci. This triggers a flashback for Kuma with Dragon, and when Kuma was talking with Dragon, he's like, oh, when I went to go for a walk, I managed to see a kid there, and Dragon immediately, so you can take this one of two ways. So the look on his face is like complete annoyance, but at the same time it's like, his response is, if you keep talking about that, you may as well just kill me yourself, because, and the Dragon's response, and the reason why he talk about Luffy all that much is because to him, a child is the parent's weak spot. So, but we know he cares for Luffy, but it's just in his own way, because he has like a revolution to lead. And I said this multiple times, like, Dragon is different than Luffy. He's not a pirate. So a lot of people are like, kind of want to underestimate Dragon because he didn't want to help out Ginny, and he didn't want to help out Ivankov when they were captured. He didn't want to help. He wasn't there to help back out Sabo. The commanders were enough to get Kuma and themselves away. But we know how powerful the commanders are. It's not a joke. And we know how powerful Sabo is and how durable he is. So Dragon is the leader for a reason. We'll find out soon enough. But I do like we get some characterization from Dragon. Like, he's not just an android when it comes to like Luffy. He obviously cares. In fact, we know he cares because back at Log Tower, when he made his first appearance, he showed up to save Luffy's life from not only Buggy, but from Smoker as well. The thing to note is, that's only a weak spot if they get captured. Like, really. I don't think Dragon wants anyone to know about their relationship, even though it's pretty crystal clear, though a lot of people know, or knew, Luffy was the son of Dragon. Al-Qaeda definitely knew it, back at Marineford. But we're going to find out pretty soon, because I got the feeling we're going to get another reunion on top of Bonney and Kuma reuniting. So we see, like I said, we see Luffy training while he's 16. Luffy only noticed somebody out there because the Dendamushi of Kuma's was ringing, and immediately Kuma dipped. Like, he walked out of there. I like this moment for two reasons. Number one, like, seeing Luffy like training, practice his battle axe. Now he says he's going to use it in special situations when it comes to like when I set sail and get my crew, I'm going to use it to protect them, which I feel like is cool, because even though at this point he doesn't have members, he's still thinking about ways to actually protect his crew, which is really cool. And come to think of it, the Gum Gum Axe is exactly how he defeated Arlong to free Nami. So I think that's kind of poetic in that regard. And you could make the argument too that he used the gigantic Thorax back in strong-willed, which Oda had a hand in. So even though, so you can make the argument, but I thought as a color, you could reference that too, because that was also how he saved Nami from Shiki. So either way, we got Kuma on the ship and actually writing a letter to Bonney, and back at Sorbet Kingdom, Bonney is searching high and low, and she's waiting for those letters to come. And they don't see any letters coming in, but we find out the reason why is because as we see the newspaper dropping in front of Alpha, the Cypher Pol agent for CP8, she immediately sees the newspaper and the letter that Kuma's been writing to Bonney, the letters that Kuma's been writing to Bonney, and instead of giving them to Bonney like a decent human being would, she decides to tear them up, thinking that Bonney doesn't have any letters. And I don't know why she's getting so agitated by this. You can see her facial expressions, like she's really disgusted about it. So it makes the end of this chapter even more satisfying. So, but even as she's tearing up the letters that Kuma's sending Bonney, you still have it being narrated of what Kuma is writing to Bonney. It's like, one last thing, you're probably sick of me saying this, but I love you so much. I'll be sure to write again soon. It's poetic because it looks to be the final letter before Bonney decides to go off. And speaking of Bonney going off, we see Muscle Bonney all about fighting because she's getting agitated. I guess she's getting agitated but Bonney's all about throwing hands. And like I said, she's expanding her body size. Like, I kind of figured that would be the case because we've already seen that present time with Vegapunk, because of the stem cell transplant that Kuma and Bonney went through. So yeah, that may have something to do with it, but it also may have something to do, especially after this chapter, maybe with Bonnie's devil fruit willing that into existence. So while Gyogyo and Bonney are sparring, obviously there's confusion with Alpha because it looks like she's seeing her was huge, but then as a first glance it makes Alpha look like a complete dumbass because it looks like she noticed that something different about Bonney, but she didn't think to like second guessing it, and I don't know, maybe look into it. And then she's trying to feed Bonney medicine. Now I'm surprised she didn't try and poison her. So we go from there to the Navy Science Division lab, where we see Vegapunk, and two notable things here. First is Vegapunk has cut his head, so he's now bearing the apple. And the second thing is we see Stussy, the clone of Stussy, the more likable version of Stussy, I might add. And we see that Kuma is like is about ready to like give up his humanity to like become a cyborg. Obviously the deal with Saturn. So this is the most important thing. So he says you should be able to retain some degree of free will until the process is fully complete. That'll give you roughly 1 more year, which would make sense, and I mentioned this in the last review, considering what we saw went down, and not only Thriller Bark involving Kuma in Thriller Bark, but also in Sabi Archipelago. So that makes perfect sense. So he would have lost his humanity regardless if he'd been injured or not. So that wouldn't have changed. But Kuma says, like, I'm going to keep writing till I run out of time. Now, even though the letters... Bonney is checking high and low to make sure they arrive. And I also find it interesting that Stussy is now included in this flashback. Now, the second thing to note about this is the satellites are nowhere in sight, or the Vegapunk clones are nowhere in sight. And in the last chapter, it's like Vegapunk was talking about how if he had more of himself, if he claimed more of himself to like handle the workload, it makes things so much easier. But we don't see him here. So Bonney is celebrating turning 9. Obviously, she's getting a gigantic pizza. Not gonna lie, that's making me very hungry right now. But so she's checking the mailbox to see if there's any letters from Kuma, and obviously there's not. And this is like the emotional aspect of Bonney. Is like, I'm 9 now, and you said you're right. But at this point, she has no idea. And you see the panel of where she's crying, and immediately it's like resembling the way she was crying when after she saw the memories of Kuma. We didn't know at that time what she saw, but now that everything's coming to fruition, now that everything's been revealed, it kind of makes sense that everything that Bonnie's experienced through Kuma's memories all at once. Yeah, so no wonder she was an emotional wreck and just cried and cried. So the panel kind of mimicked what we saw Bonney after she saw Kuma's memories, but she knows what went on now, so that's not the issue. And the thing is, you can kind of like sweep that away because Alpha gets taken down by the end of this chapter. So, and we also find out that half a year passed, so not a full year, half a year passed. So, and we find out that Kuma's been helping the Revolutionary Army on the verge of being defeated. So Kuma's still acting out on his own, helping out the Revolutionary Army. Kuma also separated himself from the Revolutionary Army to tend to Bonney because that was most important. So, and because of this, like, Dragon's like, if Kuma wishes to not be followed, we have to respect that. So, because we see a silhouette of Kuma as he's walking away, we see some members of the Revolutionary Army. Dragon already knows, and I said this in the last review, I said it multiple times. He didn't say anything which made it look really bad on Dragon, but I already said it. Like, Dragon already knew what was up. Like, he already knows. Like, I'm sure he had his reasons for keeping us in the dark. So he already knows. He understands. It's not that surprising. I said the same thing at the beginning of this chapter for a reason. Like Dragon understands Kuma's motivation for like separating himself and doing things on his own. Like he has been. Like, he's still helping the Revolutionary Army despite not being affiliated with them anymore. So, because it's like, it makes sense because he's like using what little humanity has left before he loses it all. Like, obviously, he acts out back at Thriller Bark and Zombie Archipelago, like I mentioned. And we cut away to, like, Bonney, almost about to turn 10, and the stones of the Sapphire Scale have receded. So it looks like she's already been cured, but the real twist is the fact that she's been cured. You can tell in appearance-wise now that she's already been fully cured. I can finally go outside now, and Alpha gets, like, triggered, like, no, not a chance. You must stay put. We've been told to keep you under close supervision until your 10th birthday. Bonney calls out Alpha by saying, liar, because Vegapunk said I'd be fine just after a year. And this is where Connie kind of like puts two and two together. So Alpha and the other government intelligent agent, though apparently they let it slip while getting drunk because they were talking about apparently your disease has been cured. But Connie's like, so why would they keep a perfectly young girl trapped for another 6 months? I also find it hard to believe that Kuma wouldn't send a single letter. So it's obvious they know something shady's going on. Connie's the one that says, I've already sorted everything out with Gyogyo and the others. Sail the seas and go find your father. So I like it's Connie that pushes Bonney. It's like, okay, we got you. We'll take care of things here. I'm pretty sure she's dead at this point. She goes outside, and it's actually it's a big part of Bonnie's life because for the first time since she's born, she can step outside and see the world. So that's actually really cool because she's actually noticing the grass, the sun, and you see the bystanders of the Sorbet Kingdom looking on. So Bonnie's actually walking outside. So we see the 3 crew members we know ends up with her. So Gyogyo is one of them. Tarts and Potato, go figure. So Alpha catches wind of this because she discovers that Bonnie's left because she sees Connie. It's like, oh, it's me, Bonney. It's like, you lying old prude. So they really weren't aware that Bonney had a devil fruit. I find that hard to believe because I was like, why would they mention the question, like, why would they go out of their way to supervise Bonney? She's not a threat, according to them. So Alpha finds out, she gives chase. She uses Skywalk, which according to Gyogyo is one of the 6 powers. But it doesn't even matter because she gets taken down, and everything that Alpha's done, like ripping the letters, comes back to bite her in the ass. So we got Bonney asking her father about Nika and what he looks like, and Kuma's like, nobody knows. They say he was all rubbery, which immediately gets Bonney to like trigger. She uses Distorted Future to bulk herself up, very Gear 3rd style, like Luffy, and just smashes Alpha. And the fact that she's not even 10 right now, and Bonney, before she sets sail, has already taken out a member of Cypher Pool. So regardless of what you think, that's impressive. And the fact she's able to develop her devil fruit abilities at this age. So she's like, give me a Nika-ish future. So again, more emphasis on the Sun God Nika and the fact she hasn't met Nika and she's going to in the form of Luffy. And the fact that the description matches as rubbery. The government will receive word that the hostage Bonney escaped to find her father. That was the obvious driving force of Bonney leaving so she could find her father. But the thing is, now she's, like I mentioned earlier, now she's seen the memories, she already knows the truth. She already knows what went on. She knows why Kuma gave up his humanity, that Vegapunk wasn't solely responsible, like it was Saturn and the government. And we still don't know how Ginny was infected in the first place, but that's how the chapter ends, with Bonney setting sail, and we know she's going to get a bounty because of this. So like I said, more emphasis on the fact that this is building up to Bonney recognizing Luffy as Nika, and the fact that like I said, this chapter starts off with Luffy using his gum fruit, training with his gum fruit to perfect the battle axe technique, or the gum axe technique, and the transition into the ending of this chapter where we see Bonney implement that inspiration of Rubber and Sungon Nika into her own devil fruit. Or it's like I said before, it's a combination of the stem cell that was transplanted to Bonney, because now she has Kuma's DNA, or combined with a devil fruit. So that could be a mixture of two things. We don't know, because technically, wouldn't that make her have Buccaneer DNA, technically speaking? So that could be a possibility. But either way, it's really cool that Bonney could do this now, and she uses it to demolish Alpha in a very satisfying conclusion to this chapter. I don't think that was a coincidence at all, that Bonney now has the imagination to turn her body into rubber, much similar to Luffy. If that doesn't scream a future team up against the world government, I don't know what to tell you. It just goes to show, like the way I said this before, the way that they've handled Bonney's character throughout this entire ordeal has been tremendous. Like, there's no way Bonney is dying. I'm sorry, I hate to keep harping on that, but like, for the people that actually think that Saturn is going to kill Bonney, no, I'm sorry, no. So, but I do think that Oda's going to go a different route. Instead of having the stereotypical Kuma actually showing up next chapter, or we don't even know if we're going into the present time next chapter. I don't know. But if by chance we do, I don't think it's going to be like Kuma's going to immediately show up. No, there's going to be some build up to that. They haven't seen each other since Kuma left to become a warlord and give up his humanity. This will be the first time they've seen each other in several years. So this is going to be an emotional reunion, to say the least. The question I have is, will Kuma recognize Bonney? Or if he's just acting on impulse to save his daughter? Because I feel like that could also play a factor into this. But I feel like it would be a crime if Kuma doesn't also see Nika through Luffy going into Gear 5th. Because I ultimately feel that's where this is leading. Like, Kuma's going to do something to help out Luffy to get back in the game. There's a lot of other factors to take into consideration. I mentioned one last chapter where we haven't seen Nami, Usopp, or Chopper, who was attended to what could be York or Stussy. After this chapter, it may be Stussy, because she was included in this flashback. The clone of Stussy was included in this flashback. If that's the case, they could do something. I hope Usopp does something, if that's the case. But a lot of people are banking that maybe Nami could do something. The other element to take into consideration here is Kizaru, and he's a wild card in all this. We don't really know what he's going to do. It's either he's trolling, or he literally is like no match for Luffy, even nerfed in Gear 5th. I'm sorry, that has to be revealed. He's either trolling, or Luffy is just above Admiral level at this point, even nerfed. It's not going to be the only reunion we could possibly get. We could get Dragon. But my final point to this, and this may lead to what Oda could have planned for 2024. So, obviously, it's no secret that Oda is pointing and hinting towards the Elbaf being the next destination. When and how we get there, we'll have to wait and see. So, a couple of things. Number one is right now, Bonnie's Devil Fruit and Luffy's Devil Fruit are a complete mystery. We don't know. Well, we kind of know where Luffy's Devil Fruit ended up, but with Bonney, it's not so clear. So, I have a question. So we know that the Guma Guma no Mi was supervised by the world government. They had it on ship. Whose was on that? Who's Who was on that ship, and they screwed up by Shanks coming in and swiping the Gumma Gumma no Mi, just like that, like no problem, and it ended up being eaten by Luffy. So, and there's a lot of question marks about Bonney's devil fruit. Like, where did that come from? How did they get to Bonney in the first place? Like, we don't really know. So again, we don't know if Oda's going back into present time, but that's one mystery I would like to find out personally for like Bonney. Like, how did she wind up with that devil fruit in the first place? So Joy Boy / Nika had the Gumma Gumma no Mi. I think it's pretty much a given at this point, given what we saw with episode 1071. Where did they come from in the first place? Because in that same episode, in episode 1071, the government was talking about how the fruit has always eluded them. And I'm like, well, if that's the case, then where was it to begin with before Shanks swiped it from the ship that Who's Who was on? So that's a complete mystery. Could it be that devil fruit was on Elbaf? Is that at one point was an Elbaf? Because we don't really know who Joy Boy was. We can speculate, but obviously the only thing we got to match right now is the giant straw hat and him changing his body, much similar to like what we saw with Luffy and now with Bonney, being inspired by Sung and Nika to like do the same with their body through DNA and the devil fruit. To me, that's not a coincidence. Like, Oda implemented this for a reason, so I don't think it's just to have Bonney killed off. I think like 2024 is going to be the reveal. Like, we could get a flashback involving Joy Boy. Oda incorporated God's Valley into this arc, and we know we're in for an emotional reunion anyway with Bonney and Kuma. When that happens, could it be possible that Luffy and Dragon also reunite? If Dragon, because I feel like Dragon's going to show up. Like, regardless of what happens to Kuma, whether or not he's killed after seeing his daughter again, allowing her to escape, whatever the case may be, like, there's going to be some major retribution from Dragon from this. Again, Oda hyped up something massive was going to happen during this arc involving that's going to shake the foundation of the One Piece world. But the fact that she's able to like bulk her body and adjust her body like rubber, much like Luffy, that's not a coincidence. That's done by design. This has been a hyped up week for sure. What's been a very hyped up year and a very successful year for One Piece. Again, like I said, I don't know if Oda has a few more chapters in store for this year, but even if he does it, I mean, what a remarkable year for One Piece, like really. And we're not done. We're still not done. We still got the anime. So, and in 2024, we know we're arriving on Egghead Island in the anime. So I'm pretty sure we'll get not only an anime trailer at Jump Festa, but Oda revealing what's in store in 2024. It possibly could be Elbaf. We'll just have to wait for hear it from the man himself. So that's going to do it for the guys. Thank you so much for watching. Like this review if you did. A thumbs up. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Subscribe to channel for more One Piece. I appreciate all you guys' support. Catch you guys later. Thanks, guys. Bye.